first guest actually has a platform with the largest community of web series creators. He is the founder of Stareable. Welcome to the show, Ajay Kishore.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
I said it right. Good.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a web series, right?
That's right.
Not exactly a super new genre. And a lot of people are making them, but vast majority of people, they still watch, they still don't watch it. So like if I'm a web series creator, why should I use your platform and how many people does it reach?
Yeah, so it's a great point. Web series have been around for a really long time. One of the things that kind of spurred us to start the platform and the company was this idea that web series were being created, but they were being lost in the ocean of YouTube and Vimeo and fun and cat videos and baby videos. And the reality is that there are these ultra-talented indie filmmakers and artists and digital creators that are making this type of content, and they deserve a platform that's going to elevate and support what they're putting together.
So if I'm a web series creator, how do I make money off of this? Because that's the first thing I see on your screen. I'm seeing dollar signs. Yeah. So I'm a creator. I'm a content creator. I put my stuff on your website. How do you monetize
And he's
that?
going to cast me, so
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, Julia's my star. How do I make money?
We're in. So what we've essentially done is build these tools that help the creators build these freemium experiences around their shows. So acknowledging that they're going to want to take some of their free content and put it on places like YouTube because that's where huge audiences are, but that there's always going to be engaged fans that are willing to pay for bonus or premium content.
How much does it typically cost? So let's say, my star here, Julia, kicked it out of the park on YouTube, and now I want to charge for her next episode. How much does an episode cost?
So creators get to determine their own strategies, and that's really dependent on the type of show that they're making, the type of audience that they have. But monthly subscriptions, they'll range between a couple bucks up till $10 or $20 a month.
Okay, so it's fairly low.
Yes,
yeah.
for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, see, what I regularly hear from filmmakers is, God, it's hard enough to get your stuff out there, let alone charging people. Right? So for a lot of filmmakers, I mean, just from my vantage point, they're just happy to put it on YouTube and have as many people watch their stuff as possible. Because let's face it, a lot of filmmakers, especially young filmmakers who might be watching our show, they're starting out and they're not really in it for the money. If you're in it for the money, don't go to filmmaking. So then why should they use your platform?
I think that's been one of the tragedies of how the internet has evolved, is that audiences have basically been trained to expect for content to be free. And so you've seen that interfere with the way that digital media companies have come up. You've seen that interfere with the way that content creators are thinking about how they should be supporting their own shows. One of the reasons why we take this freemium approach is because they want their audience to learn about their show in a way that doesn't immediately require a paywall, but eventually there should be a way for you to support the things that you really love.
Well, I don't know if people realize this, AJ, but filmmakers are real people who have rent and insurance and
that's right.
Help. They need health care. Yeah. And our next segment is actually going to be about that as well. How do we survive in this world where a lot of content is free?
How do we, what do you mean, how do we survive?
How do we survive? If I'm a content creator, we're content creators here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to monetize something or else we can't pay our bills.
Right, not every, like Taylor Swift gets royalty out of every song she writes and every play, and so do, I don't know, some of the commercials, blockbuster movies you get.
Blockbuster died.
Yeah, okay, as an adjective, David, come on. Okay, but let's just say the reality is vast majority is for content creators, whether you're a songwriter, whether you're a filmmaker, whether you are a show creator, whatnot. Mm-hmm. You just don't get paid until you get that to that very, very top echelon. And most people flame out before they get there.
It's hard. It's a tough
how do
business.
they do it then?
I think it's about thinking through and segmenting out your audience to understand. There are always going to be casual fans that are going to want to engage with, a free or ad-supported model, but how can you bring in those more engaged ones that really care about your show? They are part of the community that you've built, and find ways to tap into that fandom, right? I mean, when we when we think about who does it really well, a great example is Disney, right? So Disney allows you to experience their content and IP in all sorts of different ways. So if I'm a family of 4, I can rent a movie for $20 on Amazon and we can all experience it that way. But if I have a 4-year-old daughter and she's super into Frozen, I can go out and buy the Elsa dress, right? And that's another way for us to engage
I
in
see
that
what
sort
you're
of
saying.
fandom.
You have to create a kind of an ecosystem around your content.
That's right. And then
Yeah.
you think about, okay, well, there's an opportunity to visit Disney World, and that's another price point. And so being an indie creator, the way that we think about it is, well, how can we offer that sort of experience for them so that they can think about, some fans are going to subscribe for bonus content, some fans are going to show up to in-person screenings, some fans are going to buy merchandise, and allow them to create to your point, an ecosystem that supports their show.
Okay, AJ, let me be on the record. I don't necessarily agree Disney is a good example in this case, just because every indie filmmaker, they're just not Disney. Let's just say they're not Disney. However, let's talk practical here before we let you off the show, is for an indie young filmmaker, web series creator nowadays, other than controlling the content, which is a highly subjective thing, right? What makes a web series successful?
So I think in the past, success for web series has been defined by, can you get it onto a linear television or streaming service, right?
Sure,
So
of course.
in actuality, you've had a couple very successful web series that are on this show, that were on the show, East Siders and Makeup and Breakup. And what do? They sold their shows to Netflix or to BET, and that's great, right? And so we always want those sorts of success stories where Broad City makes it to Comedy Central, Insecure makes it to HBO. One of the reasons we started our own festival, which we haven't talked much about, but was to really bridge that gap between digital creators and industry and make sure that those conversations
Sure.
are happening because they're very necessary. But there's always going to be everyone below that high tier of content that are much more interested in how can I make this sustainably on my own terms. And so if I'm creating a well-crafted but niche sci-fi web series and I'm able to get 1,000 people to pay me $1 a month, that becomes meaningful in the context of
It's a side
supporting this
hustle
show.
now. Yeah.
And so over time, if you're able to take that from 1,000 people to 5,000 people, all of a sudden
That's a full-time job.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's really how we picture this, is creating the sorts of tools that, so if you don't have the resources of the infrastructure of a Disney, you can still start to think about how do we make this in an ongoing and supportive sort of way.
Okay, and where do we go to find the website?
Stareable.com.
Stareable.com.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right,
AJ, thank you
for
so
coming
much.
on to the
Thank you.
show.